Peace and blessings, family. Today we're going to decipher the so-called controversy with T.D. Jakes regarding a statement that he made, several statements actually. But I would like to reflect on some of the life-giving teachings of Elijah Muhammad as it relates to his position on women, as well as give some commentary on him as a person. Let me start the video.
Him, sin would have never come into the world.
He said if Adam
Sin
didn't
came
allow
into the
Eve
world
to pour
because
into
Adam
him,
broke the order. We were not designed to receive from women. Your self-esteem is compromised when you have to ask your wife for lunch money. I'm not saying you got to be rich. I'm not saying you got to be famous. I'm saying that you have got to be the one who pours in, not the one who takes out. When Adam started eating out of his wife's hand, sin came in because the divine order was broken. This breaks all sociological orders of the culture we're living in now, because we are raising up women to be men. And you are not applauded for your femininity. You are applauded in the contemporary society by how tough, rough, nasty, mean, aggressive, hateful, possessive you are, and you are climbing the corporate ladder, but we are losing our families. I know you can buy your own car. I know you can buy your own house. But until you create a need that I can pour into, I have no place in your life. So stop coming home bragging to me about how much you don't need me and wonder why I shy away. Oh, y'all ain't gonna talk back to me this morning. The conversation has become, let's prove to the men how dispensable they are. And it is born out of pain because we hurt you and betrayed you and lied to you and cheated to you. And you became like you became out of pain. Oh, Lord, I told you they wasn't going to like this, Jesus.
Okay, so that was the remarks made by Reverend T.D. Jakes. And even though I'm a minister of Islam, I would like to say first that the first time I heard of Reverend T.D. Jakes was like, it had to be back in the 80s. And at the time, he really didn't have no money, but there were certain ministers, some of that books I probably got all around here, now that I think about it. But Reverend T.D. Jakes, I forgot the white lady name. I remember the other white lady, Paula. It was a different Christian ministers that, they were Christians, but I liked all their ministries. You know what I mean? I don't mean I agree with everything that they say. You know what I mean? I don't agree with everything nobody say. You shouldn't agree 100% with everything I say. That's just not a sign of human intelligence. We have our own views, our worldviews, opinions, beliefs, nuances, and interpretations and things of that nature there. But he always been like not just a minister, but like a psychiatrist, like he used to talk to the hurt of our people, hurt the people in general. Know what I mean? So I have respect for him. Know what I mean? And listening to the remarks that he made about the male-female dynamic and relationship, I'm like, one, I definitely don't agree with it as a black man. I definitely don't agree with it as a minister of Messenger Elijah Muhammad's teachings, but I do understand what he was trying to convey, meaning that, you know, understanding is information conceived, mathematically multiplied by information received, and it equals clarity. Sometimes we could get the math wrong. Now, I mean, our delivery might not be right. It's not how we say it, it's what we said. It's not what we said, it's how we say it. Now, I mean, so that's easy. That's, you know what I mean? Like, if you're a public lecturer, that's one of the jobs that people don't like. People don't like public speaking because it's not an easy thing to do. You know what I mean? So of course you're gonna stumble here and there. That's all in it. But if you have a quarterback that's like winning championship rings for the team all the time, and then he throw the football and it's like a clincher and he throws it wrong. I mean, he throws it too high, or he throws it too low, or he throws it too slow or fast. It's like, oh, you effed up. But that don't mean we don't appreciate all the good you did, all the times you've been winning. I mean, you know what I mean? You can't forget or take that away. You know what I mean? You know, but in this quick social media thing, that's what some people do, unfortunately. Now, I mean, so I want to look at one, because he's a Christian. So I just want to point something out just for the Christians so that we can look at it in context as to why I don't, you know, like his one, I want to put it in context that he's at a Father's Day event. Now, short version, if you're at a Father's Day event, basically like, okay, this is men dealing with men. It's like FOI class. It's like MGT class. It's like I could if a sister, say a female leader, was videotaped saying to some women during a women's conference or MGT class, listen, now I mean, F these brothers. Now I mean, we really run the house for real. And somebody was to like make that go viral, be like, oh yeah, what she said? She said F the brothers. I wouldn't jump on that bandwagon. I would put it in context, like, okay, she talked to sister her niyat or her intent. And the message teaches us 17 ways for the Islamic culture that actions are judged by intentions. Actions may appear wrong, but motives bring reward. What was you trying to do? They was like, well, I was trying to get the women to be stronger. I mean, to be more assertive. I mean, to take charge of their post and all temporal property in view. Not to be disrespectful to men or to cause this long, drawn on male versus female thing. It's not about the polarity. I mean, when it comes to the law of gender is all things. So what you're trying to do is find a balance. You're trying to find a mayat. You're trying to find the peace, the truth, the freedom, justice, and equality in the household or in the organization or in the individuals or in the relationship or whatever the case may be. I mean, but biblically speaking, there are countless scriptures that contradict that concept of the man was designed to pour into the woman, and the woman is not designed to pour into the man. And the reason sin is in the world is because Eve poured into Adam, or she had him eating out of her hand the forbidden fruit. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's some spooky stuff to me. Now, I mean, that's one of the old ways, specifically the Catholic Church and male chauvinists in general used to be able to try to keep control over women. Strong women, intelligent women. The Bible is like, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live. In 2022, they be like, thou shalt not allow a bee to prosper. Now, I mean, if she's strong, if she's getting her own money, if she's doing her own thing, she got to be a bee. She got to be trying to be a man. It's like, why can't a woman be strong? Why can't a woman be wealthy? Is wealthy, strong, intelligent, the Queen of Sheba? It's just so many biblical examples of women asserting themselves and being strong. Now, I mean, in history, there's so many females warriors that stood up when men wouldn't stand down. In Islam, the in the early years when it first started, the men wasn't fighting. I mean, the women was the one that stood up, and when the men seen the women fight, that's when the men was like, "Oh, we gotta do." You know what I mean, my girl out, my wife out there fighting. You know what I mean, in the Nation of Islam, it's like, as far Muhammad is locked up. Messenger Elijah Muhammad locked up. Who gonna hold the Nation of Islam down? Sister Claire Muhammad stepped up to the plate. Them MGTs was running around getting pennies and nickels, dimes and dollars. Them sisters was, I mean, they getting literature and writing letters in there. I mean, I was in the belly of the beast. I mean, it's like, I would say, in my personal experience, I would say it's like the majority of the incarcerated brothers that I knew, the majority of them, I ain't going to give a percentage, but I would definitely say the majority, their support wasn't coming from the homies. It wasn't coming from the gang. It wasn't coming from their fathers or their brothers or it was coming from the sisters. It was coming from their moms. It was coming from their wives, their baby mamas, their girlfriends. I mean, it was coming from females. Now, I mean, for the most part, because of the social dynamics we're living in. Now, I mean, you had that so-called Willie Lynch syndrome in America. Now, I mean, even though Willie Lynch isn't a historical thing, but I'm saying the premise or the principle is true, that it's like, okay, they giving a little more crumbs to the females than the men. Now, I mean, but that don't mean you don't have strong brothers and strong sisters on both sides of the table. Now, I mean, so, we got to be careful with absolutes and extremities on in anything. Actually, you want to be balanced in stuff, and sometimes you got to try to, like, you don't want to be constantly thinking, am I being politically correct every time you open your mouth? Sometimes you gotta let the chips fall where they may. You know what I mean? But I do understand that his intention, I'm talking about the Reverend T.D. Jakes, his intentions was to basically try to get the men to be more stronger, assertive, more self-sufficient, more independent, more intelligent, more responsible, more honest, more moral, more of what we call a better human being, if you will. But in the social media setting, you gotta be careful with that, because you gotta be like, of course this goes for the women too. You know what I mean? You'd be like, it's just, that's just the way of the world right now. You know what I mean? But I would like to look at something in the Bible. Let me pull this up for a minute. It's in the book of First Kings, the 17th chapter of Kings. Let me look at it from a ministry perspective, if you will. Here we have a story about the prophet Elijah, and he's staying in the house of a woman that don't have a man, or a widow. And the story is basically designed to bring him closer to the suffering that's prevalent in the world, and acquaint him with the hunger and the want from which the women and children suffered, according to the scholars, if you will. Now, I mean, so let's look at some of this for a minute. I got the manual Bible. I'm just pulling it up for convenience sake here. All right. Now, basically, God going to tell Elijah to go somewhere. You know what I mean? All right, this is First Kings chapter 17, starting at verse 7, about Elijah and the widow at Zarephath. Sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him. Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. Let's stop right there. As a reverend or minister or imam or guru or sheikh or whatever, or wazir, that should let you know, wait a minute, I can't be like, God designed the man to pour into the woman, that that sin is in the world because Adam ate out of Eve's hand, as though God didn't tell Adam and Eve don't eat of the forbidden fruit. That's not the instruction. That's the misinterpretation, the spooky stuff that everybody talking about. But God really was like, don't even touch it. I mean, he ain't said if you eat it, you're going to die. He said the day thou shalt even touch that crap, thou shalt surely die. So that's the instructions from the alpha male in the narrative. I mean, he said don't even touch it. So the woman being deceived by the serpent, I mean, the serpent is getting the woman to disobey God. But Adam supposed to tell the woman, oh, what you talking about? God told us don't touch it. Don't eat it. You ate it, so what? I'm not going to eat it. But he touched it and ate it too. I mean, so you can't cast the blame on women or Eve saying sin into the world because Eve poured into Adam, or Eve had Adam eat of the forbidden fig or the forbidden pomegranate or whatever kind of fruit it was back then in the symbolic garden. Now, I mean, you gotta be like, according to the narrative, sin is in the world because before Adam was made, sin was already there. The serpent was in the garden already. Lucifer was already in heaven. Sin was already in existence before Adam and Eve. The whole spooky concept and interpretation and mistranslations, mistransliterations that's in churches and synagogues and all over the world, literally. I mean, it's a false premise. It's a straw man's argument. That's not even the issue. If you read the text, that's not what the Bible's saying. I mean, the Bible is saying that, I mean, it's a thing about it's already there, but if you eat it, you're going to know both good and evil. You're going to become conscious of, you're going to really be aware of it. Now, I mean, you're going to, it's like, when you know better and don't do better, there's accountability there. And I mean, it's like if a person got poisoned, for example, say somebody went to a restaurant and they said, can I have a cup of tea? And somebody inside the restaurant put a pill inside that tea. They put a Mickey in that tea and they drank the tea and it had them hallucinating. And they ripped their clothes off and ran outside down the street naked, and they was charged with nudity or whatever. And they took and checked into it and seen on the video that somebody in the back put a pill inside his or her drink. The judge's not going to sentence that person or punish the person. They'd be like, you're not held accountable for that. Now, I mean, how can we hold you accountable for that which you were ignorant of? You didn't even know. So the messenger teaches us in the Theology of Time in 1972, he said, law will not even look at our past. He said in his last book, I'll Say It's Right, he said, law will not even look at our past. He said, because our past, and he said, we was mentally dead. We was under Satan's, we was under the devil's world. Now, I mean, he said, so that spooky stuff, that's why Muhammad don't teach that judgment stuff like that. That's some pseudoscience, organized religious stuff. That's stuff that the holier than now fakers, the 10% is spitting out. But that's not the teachings of Elijah Muhammad. The messenger is clear about that. Now, I mean, so here we have Elijah and his widow. Now, I mean, and I'm summarizing it. When he comes to the widow, he went to it says, verse number 7 again, hold on. Sometime later, the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him. Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon to stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food. So he went to Zarephath. Where he came to the town gate, a widow was there gathering sticks. He called to her and asked, would you bring me a little water in a jar so I may have a drink? And she was going to get it. He called, and bring me, please, a piece of bread. So here's Elijah. We using the word bread, but historically, it's basically like he wanted her to bring him some water and a pancake, basically. All right. He wanted her to bring some water and a pancake. As surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. Now, the brook drought, it's a famine in the land. You know what I mean? And here she got this strange guy coming to her, talking about, you know what I mean? Yo, can you make me a plate? Can I get something to eat? And she like, listen, normally I would try to help you, but right now, we starving ourselves. I'm poor. I ain't got no money. I ain't got no EBT card, no welfare check coming in. I ain't got no Social Security, no disability. I ain't getting no child payments from the baby's father. His father is dead. I'm a widow. And all I got left is this little bit of biscuit and a little bit of oil to cook it with. So basically, I'm doing. We just going to make our last meal, and after that, we just going to wither away and starve to death. Know what I mean? So I can't help you. Know what I mean? Now look what Elijah said to her. Now keep in mind, here is a prophet of God that is not looking at it like if the woman pour into the man, it's going to make him other than a man. He's asking her to feed him. Like, yo, pour into me. I'm hungry. I need to fill my gut right now. Now, I mean, it's like, you going on the airplane and they tell the parents, like, listen, if something happened and when the oxygen mask comes down, you put it on first, because you can't help your child. Your child can't help you, but you can help your child if you first help yourself. I mean, symbolically in slavery in the hood, they'd be like, okay, look, after slavery, and it's hard out here. Now, I mean, make sure daddy get the big piece of chicken. Everybody knows, like, you don't eat the big piece. Like, daddy's plate has more calories, because if daddy is not hungry, he's going to be grouchy when he go to work for this white man, symbolically. And this white man or Chinese man or Arab man or his boss, male or female, if he curse him out or say the wrong thing, he going to get fired. Now we ain't going to have no paycheck coming in. And the lights go out, the heat go off, the mortgage, the rent can't be paid, the car note, we wind up homeless. It's a chain reaction. So you want to feed the father in that sense. And I mean, you want to feed the father, you want to feed the children. The father is not neglecting the child. That's not his thing. But the thing is that in the order of things, he'd be like, okay, in the jungle, in nature, we see, okay, the female lioness, she's going to go do some hunting too. Now, I mean, it's a science there. All right. So Elijah said to her, verse number 13, Elijah said to her, don't be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first thing I want you to do, make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me, and then make something for yourself and your son. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. Now, Elijah telling her, like, listen, it's like, say you have a minister or a messenger, or a prophet of God, and they be like, look, it's the 1930s. Everybody's struggling. But he like, listen, I need y'all to help donate to this nation. Help me in this cause. And they like, well, you ain't already got no money. You know what I mean? I got to get my son sneaks. I got to, do this. I got to pay this bill, that bill. You know what I mean? I'm broke too. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I know it's hard. It's hard for me too. You know what I mean? It's hard for all of us. But if you invest in the right vessel, if you take your little nickel dimes and pennies and invest it in Messenger Elijah Muhammad's economic program, it'll germinate in the earth. And the scriptures teach us that God will open up the window of opportunity and you will have so many blessings, you won't be able to count them. Now, I mean, the Holy Quran teaches us that Allah does not teach us usury, but Allah mathematically in nature shows us the power of mathematics. If you take a single grain of corn and you plant it into some good soil, you're in the right season, and you water it just right, you don't get back a grain of corn, you get back a stalk of corn with ears on there. And when you open up the ear, each ear has over 100 grains on each ear, meaning Allah can use the mathematical law of Islam and he can add and multiply your blessings, your resources as he wills. And at the same time, you could plant 1,000 corn seeds and the law could send heat. He could send an earthquake. He could send rain. And I'm not talking about a mystery God. I'm talking about the mathematics of cause and effect, actions and reactions. You could plant your seed in November in the wintertime in the Northeast. You got good seed, you got good teachings, but it's not time yet. Now, I mean, Jesus, it's not time for them kind of teachings yet. Now, I mean, so you're not going to bear fruit. Now, I mean, so the prophet or this symbol of Elijah, you know what I mean, Eli and Jah, God is with us. So don't worry about feeding him and giving him a drink first. Now, I mean, let him get his nourishment, let him get the sustenance first, because his success is going to be your success. His strength is going to be your strength, but it's going to be multiplied, because he would have starved and been hungry without your help, without your sadaqah, your zakat, your charity, your little nickels and dimes and pennies. I mean, your little donations. That's how this is how the word of God gets out to the people. The lights don't come on magically. It's an electric bill behind the scene. There's a phone bill behind all this. I mean, there's all kind of bills that take place. Now, I mean, so you have to realize that the 5% are the poor righteous teachers, but we don't believe in the teachings of the 10%. The 5% are all wise. And we know who the true and living God is. So that is the blessing that comes from helping Elijah. So the scripture says, she went away and did as Elijah had told her. She submitted her will to the will of Elijah. Not because she was obeying the man. If she was a he, if it would have been a brother with his daughter, now I mean, and his wife had died, it's the same principle. I mean, so it's not this dichotomy between men versus women. And she went away and did as Elijah had told her. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken, by Elijah. So you could read that whole chapter 17, if you will. Now, I mean, and Jesus had a situation with the people. The people, it was getting late. They hungry. You know what I mean? And, the scriptures teaches us that Jesus is basically going to be like, I mean, y'all worrying about stuff that's really not that deep. You know what I mean? It's like, people like, give us this day our daily bread. The message is like, that's not the right type of prayer for God. You don't want to have to pray every day for God to bless you to be able to eat. I mean, God is like, nah, we're going to multiply. You cast your breads amongst the waters. It's going to come back. This stuff come back tenfold. Now, I mean, you take a step towards the Lord, take 10 steps towards you. Now, I mean, it's going to come shaking upstairs. It's going to be a multitude of blessings. It's going to be a bounty for you so that you don't have to worry about where you're going to get your next meal the next day. Now, I mean, where every single day oh God, feed me. I can't feed my family. Give me, you're like, yo, I mean, I'm not going to send you a loaf of bread every day. Why don't you go out there and plant some wheat get your farmland together? Why don't you plant some tomatoes and plant a little apple tree or something? Now you got all these apples. Look at all these pears and peaches and blueberries and strawberries and tomatoes. You got some romaine lettuce over there. You got some good onions and potatoes, whatever you want to eat. Now, I mean, you multiply your sheep and your cattle, but you do for self. Now, I mean, it's a science there. Now, I mean, so these narratives are given to teach us symbolically, now I mean, about ourselves, about others, now I mean, about our circumstances, how it always gets greater later, but we have to have faith and we got to know how to make the right moves. So when T.D. Jakes gets into the harsh language, if you will, that harsh language, sometimes brothers need that. Now, we need that. We call that a head chopping. We need a symbolic or spiritual head chopping because some of us are not moving right. I mean, but at the same time, some of us are. So we can't put everybody in the same basket. Now, I mean, it's like we're in the year 2022. I mean, you have I'm just use this as an example. If you got Cardi B, Beyonce, Kim Kardashian, now I mean Oprah Winfrey. Now, say I was to see a brother, I'm a minister, and they be like, all right, Oprah wants you to marry her and Stedman or whatever. She don't need a dowry from her fiance. Now, I mean, my thing is, I'm not going to come and oh, you got to pay her 4 sheep and 2 cattle and this, that. The Holy Quran teaches that if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Some men don't have money, physical fiat money. Just because you could have a man that has $1 million or $1 billion or $1 trillion. That don't mean that he won't be a good husband or a good father or have a good heart. I mean, he could be a tyrant. Now, I mean, he could be a tightwad. He could be one that got a trophy wife. He could be buying your love, paying for you to have his son or his daughter. Now, I mean, he just using you to be seen of other men. Now, I mean, so at the same time, you could have a brother that came home from death row. I mean, like if Mumia Abu-Jamal came home, was blessed to come home, he don't have no physical money, but he has a mind that is rich. He has a heart that is rich. If Nelson Mandela come home from prison, he don't have no money, but he has a mind that's rich. He has a heart that's rich. He has wisdom. Wisdom is wealth. I mean, you don't understand that science. Now, I mean, see, a lot of people don't understand that because you can't physically see that type of money. But that money is there. It's in abundance. So the scriptures teach us, first, don't go trying to get the job. Don't be trying to get, or keep your job. First seek ye the kingdom of heaven and all of its righteousness. It's righteousness that exalts a nation. I mean, had that discipline, had that piety, had that humility, had that love for the people, had that love for your woman, for the children, for your family, for your friends, and your thing is like, okay, I don't have no money, but one of the things that I was able to do when I came back out here is like I had wisdom. I mean, it's like, okay, with my mind's eye, I produced my own businesses. I mean, but that didn't mean I didn't need no help. That didn't mean that I would just be like, oh, I can't eat out of a woman's hand or my sister's hands or my mother's hand. I'm like, what? I'm in the belly of the beast. Yo, I need some money on my books. I mean, I got bills. Boom. But at the same time, it takes money to make money. And I'm like, yo, mom, I got some money for you. Yo, sis, remember before you got your job, I bought your refrigerator while I was in the belly of the beast. I mean, like, yo, I could send money to my brothers, my homies, but like, oh yeah, oh, we in here, we gonna make some money. I mean, we're gonna start businesses in here. Now, I mean, so it's a thing where you can use your wisdom. You be like, oh, wait a minute. First of all, let me do your taxes. Now, I mean, all right, first of all, you inside this little apartment. You got bankruptcy. Let me file a bankruptcy. Let me file this lawsuit for you. So now the wisdom that I'm using, I'm like, okay, I got this brother 86,000. Now I mean, be like, okay, I moved my queen, and she in a $250,000 house. I mean, okay, I moved. She owned her car because of wisdom. So just because you may not have um $1 million or $1 billion in fiat money, you're not selling drugs, you're not robbing nobody, whatever the case. That don't mean that you're not using your lessons, which are your blessings. Your wisdom is your real wealth. I mean, so you're going to eat as long as you are staying focused and faithful to the word of God. But if your love for money becomes dominant enough where you're looking, trying to just get this paper, now you're going to lose yourself. Know what I mean? So, don't look at it like you're less than a man because the woman has the job, or the you have to ask, like he said something like, if a man have to ask his woman for his lunch. That's true, but that's not the whole picture. What's also true is if a man has to ask his own brother for some lunch money, if a man has to ask his father for some lunch money, if a woman has to ask her mother for some lunch money, if a woman has to ask her husband, I don't want my wife asking me for no lunch money. She go in the pocketbook and pull out her own money. She got her own bank account. She got her own credit cards. But she asked me, I'll be like, all right, what you need? If I got it, you got it. Because it's not your money. It's not my money. It's our money. We are one. I mean, we have unity here. We don't let money come in our household and rule us. Now, I mean, with these dead presidents, it's like, yeah, we would love to have um, more money, because you have more money, you could do more good. I mean, you can help more people. But it's like, we ain't rich or nothing, but we're able to pay the bills. And we're able to pay the bills because of the patience and the respect, the mutual respect, the mutual love, the mutual sacrifices, the mutual hard works. Now, I mean, it'd be like, if you can't do this, you could do something else. Now, I mean, until you get in that position, you do this, you play this role, you take care of this. There ain't nothing wrong with the men taking care of the children. Ain't nothing wrong with the wife working. I mean, it's like, ideally, if you be on the tip, like, the ideal family is not the man working and the woman staying home with the children. Ideally, it's like, no, I want me, the wife, the children, all of us to stay home because we got our own businesses. We don't work. Our businesses make money. Think like God. Think like a goddess. Peace and blessings, family. The struggle continues. So those are basically the controversial remarks by the Reverend T.D. Jakes. Let me first turn your Bibles to First Book of Kings, chapter 17, where the narrative about Elijah and that her husband had died, the widow and her son, and see how God looked at Elijah eating out of a woman's hand, or the woman feeding Elijah. You know what I mean? And let's look at it in context. Peace.